the fact that they've had to go through the lower bracket maybe paints us a picture as to how we can expect this rematch to go between these two teams.
I mean, they did manage to make it through the lower bracket, but you rightfully pointed out before the cast actually properly started, it wasn't clean. They did drop a couple of maps here and a couple of maps there, whereas you look at Pepegabot's progress, and I think they only dropped, was it one
One map in the
to
opening round
Pos-
of the upper bracket.
yeah, to Poseidon Exiles. So if you're washed down, you've played this team before, you know their strengths, you know their problems. You just have to be able to take advantage of it. And I mean, going on that old match score, that 3-2, it seems Pepegabots don't normally have a problem finishing games quickly. So washed down, getting it to go that close, have the best shot, which is, logical. They're both in the grand finals. They've both earned a spot.
That's right. It's not like these guys have been handed it through forfeit or anything. They've actually ground their way out to this position. But Washdown do arguably have a lot more work to do. If you think about the way that a team improves over the course of a season, the Pegabots, they started good and they got better. Washdown, they started okay, and they've had to work that much harder. They need a much, much steeper line between when they first met the Pegabots and now to really be in for a fight on this one. Moxie, I wonder though, this is maybe a lower bracket of Overwatch than we're used to seeing here. For those of you unfamiliar with the format, the GitGud is broken down into individual SR ratings, and this is the intermediate edition, which is 3000 to 3499. So solidly diamond right in the middle of the bracket there. So do we really think we're going to be seeing like the meta comps, the Genji poke sort of double shield thing that we've been seeing a lot of recently?
I mean, I've got my fingers crossed for no.
Okay, you sick of that already, are you?
I mean, the first thing that I noticed when I was looking down the team sheet that Pepegabots had provided us with, sort of had my hands clapping along in glee because it promises not just to be an Orisa Sigma. No, these guys, the tank players, apparently for the team, they most play Hammond and Reinhardt. And if that doesn't get your heart pumping with excitement for the coming game, I don't know what will, because that means you've got frontline presence with the Reinhardt and a whole lot of crowd control of where the enemy wants to go. And then the Ham is just in the back line, making sure that the supports don't get to focus, don't get to heal, don't get to live.
And I'm looking at where we're loading into here, Moxie. We're going to be starting on Nepal, of course, starting on a control map. It's pretty much how all competitive Overwatch works. And we're going to be starting here on Sanctum. So lots of space here for environmental kills, which kind of really heavily suits the sort of Wrecking Ball comp that we're maybe expecting to come out here. And, I don't want to jinx it because these guys are still in spawn, but we have currently got SJW hovering over that Wrecking Ball.
It's there, and it's going to be haunting all of the members of Washdown if he actually comes out with it. Because look at what Pepegabots are currently showing us, right? You've got aerial control with Psycho going to be up there in the sky with that pharmacy. Snooty's going for the deterrent play where you can just drop your turret, keep your backline safe. Remember, they're running the Ana, no Batiste, no Immortality field, so all of your composition hinges on your backline staying up and alive. And so if Washdown are able to get Hanzo in there, then they have a real chance of winning these fights.
Well, Washdown going to be coming out with that Genji poke double shield look. They're bringing the back there just for good measure. And they're playing what I think of as a particularly strong angle here for both teams. Nobody really wants to aggress onto the point until they absolutely have to. We'll see Holt's exchange there, but so far, nobody really finding too much. Snooty's turret, the first victim of this fight. And now Hanzo OTP on the point, ready to get the flip. Needs to be careful though, because there is a pharmacy poised just above him, ready to go. We'll see the flip go through to Washdown, but they're already one down here. So unlikely they can win this out in the long run unless they start to get equalizer kills. Flow is going to take Bunny down now as well. Washdown actually looking like they might be able to stabilize here. Psychopomp holding on.
There's just no focus at the moment going on to Psycho. Well, there we go. The fire gets low and gets even lower. Toxic Flow is going to be able to pick that one up. And this is the way that Washdown wants to be able to come into this next fight with, right?
SJW did such a good job there, had the mines ready to go, but 25 health is not going to do you much good at the back end of a team fight. Washdown, it's taken them a long time to get their foot firmly on the pedal, but now they've won up the team fight and the capture point is going.
You have to be very careful though. SJW has got those Hammond points, and if you let him anywhere near the point, that will be it shut completely down, and then you've given Japati the space to come in with the Orisa, with the supercharges, and buy you all of the damage amplification needed to get that Barrett and Morton core online.
Snooty's not having a lot of luck here with the turret, but finds somebody there with the primary fire. Minefield comes in, and the impact as well, taking Kiat out of the fight here. So, big advantage now for Pepega bots as they look to take the point, holding on to some ults.
Oh, spacing. That was something that we talked about. They could not give up the space, and that's exactly what they do. Remember though, they've still got this blade, they've still got this amplification matrix. Those are things that you can use to immediately force Pepega away because they're not running that Batiste. They don't have something that can cushion themselves through those ultimates when they come out, and instead they're just going to have to either disengage or buy the survival with kills.
I'm wondering, Moxie, where is this nano boost going to go for the Pepega bots? Because they don't have a Genji. Like, who's the prime target?
It's got to either be SJW or this Pharah to make sure you can survive the barrage, but that is the least of your worries right now.
Wow, everybody pressing Q right now. It's going to be Washer Down covered up big in the kill feed 2 already. Hanzo OTP didn't gain much value with the blade, but puts in a lot of body damage, and the rest of the team is there for the clean. And we're looking down the barrel of a flip here, Moxie.
Oh, Pepega are going to have a real hard time as well getting back in. Snooty's off the Torbjorn, going to be going on to the Hanzo, but my worry is for the Pharah right now because Toxic Flow was set up in the back of this point behind 2 layers of shielding. It's going to be so hard to get your counter out of the way.
Almost wanted to see Psycho Pump come round and go for the boot, but it's not going to happen. There's the hole, there's the floats, the dash in from the Genji as well for good measure. And as we hit 87%, it's not looking good here for the opening round for the Pepega bots.
Well, they will have a couple of ultimates still to play with. Snooty, though, forced to go onto the Doomfist because of that time constraint. If you're able to touch, you've got the supercharges, you've got the mines, that can buy you space.
Yeah, SJW in the back, but the shield coming out from the Sigma is going to clear most of those out of the way. And now they've got the rally online, even harder for them to be dislodged. The kills, they pile up for Washdown, and they're looking like they're going to take this first point.
You just can't unseat the Ashe right now, or the Bob, or the Genji. You're at such a huge disadvantage when you find yourself just scrambling to go back to that spawn room and change onto a Lucio, onto a Doomfist, because you've reset everything, including your ultimate bars. And when it goes to that overtime, every plan goes out of the window, and everyone burns everything as soon as it comes online. And when you've got ultimate burn, that's just a little bit stronger than bullets. And we're going to be seeing something that we didn't think we would be seeing. Let's be honest.
A pause?
When we were looking at the matchup between these guys. Washdown are doing a very good job, and Pepega bots are looking a little bit lost with that Torbjorn pick, not quite working out for them.
And I kind of wonder how much of that is either Pepega bots coming in a little bit cocky, knowing that they have beaten Washdown before, and that they've kind of sailed through this bracket, and they're going, we can play what we like with Pepega bots with the #1 seed, great, whatever. And Washdown, in their time cooking down there in the oven of the lower bracket, have maybe learned how to make this extremely meta Genji poke comp work out for them. So, I mean, Washdown, they're looking to run that pretty well. Pepega bots are going to have to adapt or mirror here.
I mean, Pepega bots, the real problem that I'm looking at when I see this team is that pharmacy. Because when you've got pharmacy, you are denying yourself voluntarily 50% of your support. It's only going on to the Pharah when you've got that Mercy in play, which means you've got one support player trying to keep up for other players. And that doesn't really work out when it comes to Poke, when it comes to New Genji. He does so much damage with those shurikens, but it is actually nutty the amount of damage that that guy can do if he's able to get into your backline or your front line. And so when you have that lack of support, you were always constantly behind in every single one of those fights, and that was what we saw.
I guess the other piece of that puzzle was that when you make that one remaining support, an Ana, you exponentially increase the amount of work the Ana player has to do to be able to cover all the different players in the team. If you run something a little more AoE focused, like a BAP, that has the added advantage of having the immortality field as well, just to shore up the defenses while some of that healing comes out, maybe that would have gone different for the Pepega bots.
I mean, I'm worried. I'm looking at what they're running right now, and they are still in the spawn room. They can still swap, but the Rhine's there, and that is something that I'm seeing more and more of. But when the Rhine comes out, you've also got to put the Lucio in, because the Rhine struggles to close the distance. He takes so much damage, his shields shreds his HP very quickly afterwards, unless you have that Lucio to get the speed.
Well, looks like Toxiflow might have underestimated things there. Psycho Bomb, the boosted rocket knocks him down. And that's going to be a player advantage here. Immortality down already, and Neptune's going to eat a second rocket and go down here. Japati, on the points, had basically nothing to do. He's going for a walk. He's looking for players to swing the hammer into. And Psychopomp has done so much work to open this up that he almost has the barrage ready to go.
Hanzo was just trying to find that Ana. Does actually get the pick, but it is immediately rezzed back up. And because Washdown weren't able to secure the kill onto that main support first, and because they'd already lost that Ashe, they lost a ton of damage that was being output, and they lost a ton of pressure on that Pharah. Look at Psycho, 5% off that first barrage. There's been nothing stopping this guy.
In fact, has it on and ready to go now, and I think has a pretty good idea that Washed Up are cooped up, looking to come in onto the high ground. Shields out, there's the Sigma shield as well. No angle for it just yet. Will get the slimmest of angles, which also gives Raxi the slimmest of angles to deal with Psychopomp. That's a 1-for-1 trade on the barrage. Not really what you want on that one. The Toxiflow is going to get focused. Will be able to just escape with the skin of their teeth still intact. Snooty finds heat. Toxiflow still has the high ground here, can start to pile on the damage, but isn't going to be winning out this team fight on their own. Probably needs to wait for the rest of the team to come back in to make this work.
Oh, gets
no!
the Torbjorn though, and that's the hours put in.
That's absolutely a massive pick already. Toxiflow able to survive there and just continually piling the damage, finding openings to allow Hanzo TP to get in and find the picks there on the backline as they come out, washed down with the flip.
It was a long fight though, and it's already bought Pepega bought 60% of that point, and now they can come in swinging. They've got this nano boost to enable Japati. If the shatter is huge, the cleanup's going to be even larger. Watch down if you want to keep that point percentage ticking up. You have to initiate with the supercharger, with this blade to cut this team down before they can get onto point.
This is an incredibly spiky team comp walking into the... Well, in fact, that's going to be what opens it up. There's the dash reset for the double with the help of the Orisa supercharger in the back. Now trying to find the final slash onto the Wrecking Ball. Can't make that happen, but will be holding on here. It did cost them 2 ults, though, Moxie.
I do love, though, that Hanzo immediately murder goggles on to Trap. That Ana does not get to stay alive. They know the win condition is denying the Ana, denying that nano boost, but they've only delayed the problem. You may have the rally, but it's the immortality field that's going to be key to shutting these combinations down.
Well, here's how we start things off on the next offense. You see Bunny start off with the Valkyrie. Oh, and that is going to be Japati with the fatty shatty, able to put most of the team on the ground. Molten Core out from Snooty with the minefield as well. Just stuffs up the point entirely. And as long as Psychopomp can avoid the incoming damage from the Bob in the corner, this is looking good here for a point flip for Pepega bots.
That is not looking good for a next fight win for Pepega bots. They've only got a barrage to see themselves through. Psycho may be doing an awful lot at the moment, but Washdown have already managed to accrue 75%, and they're going to be coming in with ult advantage. They've got Amplification Matrix, they've got this blade, which means you've got a lot of control on the tempo of this fight. Psycho may have the barrage, but it is so hard not just to land behind 2 shields, but to also stay alive through it.
I think Psychopomp with a barrage, though, can secure a scrappy final fight here that Pepega bots might just be able to ground out. But if Hanzo can find some good value with the blade, you're absolutely right. That is going to be what dictates how this next fight goes. SJW with a roll through. A lot of adapted shields on that one. Psychopomp down! Res needs to come through pretty quick because they gotta have this barrage online. But the body's been too heavily camped, and now Hanzo OTP has the blade ready to go. He's in the backline, he's on top of the ride, he's swinging with the hammer. The charge won't connect, but will find Japati taken out of it. Psychopomp taken out in the middle of the barrage, and we're looking again at a point flip here for Washdown.
Oh, the res came through, but the barrage did not really have that follow-up that Pepega bots needed.
Oh.
And now they're facing this final fight territory and Washdown. They've got the means to immediately end this fight before it even starts. They've got the supercharger. They're going to have that Sigma Flux. The rally's there in case that shatter comes in from Japati and it hits huge. They've got sustain, they've got aggression, and they've got the point possession.
Japati needs to land another incredibly big Earth Shatter here because we're already 2 down. The mines are up, the charge is out, the Shatter comes down, puts Rax on the floor. can't get the pick before the Flux comes through. He will survive that, and Psychopomp is back up in the fight and starting to find some damage. Japati wades back in onto the point. Can't find the Fire Strike, which was the damage to Psychopomp to get the pick. Swinging again, now trying to deal with Neptune, and it is just Neptune dealing on the point for now. Toxic Flow at 80% but taken down. That bomb is not going to be online. We could see the flip here for Vegabots, and we could see them go into a round 3. There's the flip, no contest in sight, and we're on to round 3 on the poll.
The supports came up absolutely huge for Pepega bots in that fight. I was watching Diana's health bar and I was watching the rest of the team's health bars just rise and fall and rise and fall, all the while Strat is able to just keep Japati up. And because that Reinhardt's able to stay up, he's able to keep swinging the hammer, he's able to keep contributing onto the kill feed. Heading over to Village, this might be where we get to see a couple of different looks from each composition. Symmetras tend to be used just to get out of those spawn gates a little bit faster, but we do occasionally see teams actually stick with it. Tends though to be joined by that maze so you can shut down both sides of the point instead of just one, because if you don't shut down both, people tend to just walk around it.
Looks like that Symmetra was really only there to get that early position close to the point, and Hanzo's dropping back over onto the Genji, which is a weird sentence, but here we are anyway. Double main tank coming out from Vegabots. SJW takes a lot of damage, deals a lot of damage, and boy, what a scrappy fight here. 3 for 2 so far. Toxic Flow looking to make it 4 for 2. Valiant effort from Buddy, but that's going to be as far as that one goes. Watch down, looking to cap point first.
So the Winston Reinhardt can work. It can do a lot to just completely destroy a backline from the inside when it's going into an Ana. When it comes into a Batiste, he's got that brig there, you've got the shield bash, and even if that fails, you've got Immortality Field to safeguard you. Because it was that first fight, no one had ultimates, but Watchdown don't have a main healer!
Man, talk about free value. Psychopomp basically from the back lines finds the pick. The rest of the team dive on the back of the rocket, find a way to make it work. We will see SJW go down here, but that's going to be it. Flip again here for Watchdown as the rest comes through.
I mean, the rest comes through, and now that the dive has occupied this point, this is when the dive can really start rolling. Because now you can have that frontline presence, Japati on this Reinhardt going to be coming into that shadow, but you can also send SJW, the cat amongst the pigeons, to make sure that Keat is completely occupied by dealing with him and not keeping that Orisa and Sigma alive.
In this next fight, though, looks like we might have dueling Dragon Blades here, but nobody's really got anything to combo with it just yet. Are we expecting to see like a duel of the Dry Blades here?
Japati's going to hit that shadow, and that is huge initiation for a blade.
Well, Snooty, incredibly low, can't find the reflex. Gonna fall down to Toxic Flow. Barrage, this is a 1-for-1 trade. Hanzo, low with the blade, draws the sword, finds the pick onto Japati, but the blade is there from Krasnov to take him down. And another incredibly scrappy fight here. It's down to SJW and Bunny to try and keep us alive, but the jump wasn't connect. Jumps into the corner, gets taken out by the bomb. And looking to see a flip back here. Snooty. No, Snooty keeps us alive. He keeps it alive long enough for Psychopomp to come back in and find the pick, and they hold on when they should not have held on.
Well, it might not be holding on for long, though. And so decides, yep, you know what? He's just gonna flip that point by himself. Team helps, but he comes up in the kill feed because, you know, the DPS players, they always like to be flashy. And so we're going to see already 42% to this next blade, but keep your eye on Snooty. This guy will have a blade, and Traskaf is going to have that nano boost. Which means if you're washed down, you are bunkering up right now. He has to stay alive, cannot afford to go down early like that last fight.
I think that with the Mercy boost over the top might be enough to do this, but losing SJW first here incredibly early into the fight spells disaster for this push. And Keat able to find Psychopomp through the amplification matrix means that is definitely done. And Pepega bot's just being converted into ult charge.
Oh, Bonnie's just been converted into a stagger! You really don't want to lose your Mercy. You can already see SJW being... Well, he wants to go a little bit aggressive, gets called back by the team because it's 74% and counting for Watchdown. If you wait too long, if you lose a member again too early in this next fight, you're not going to have the time left to be able to reset.
And of course, they've given themselves over to the Bongo Blade. comes in looking for it, can't find anything, and instead gets fluxed up. Sorry, that's my bad. Snooty with the blade gets fluxed up, and it's Hanzo TP that comes out on top here, finding one with the blade, one with the dash reset. Now goes toe-to-toe with the Pharah. We're going to hit 99-61 here, and it's looking like we might not see the contest because it's just Bunny. Bunny's down, and that is it. Washed down with the first map pickup.
That I think is extremely, well, unexpected. If you look at the scores, if you look at the run through the winners and compare it to the losers bracket, well, Washdown definitely surprised us, and hopefully they're able to continue doing this because we know it was a 3-2 when these guys first met. It very well could be another 3-2 today, Phil, because while the first two maps of Nepal were a little bit further away, Village was definitely very close in some parts of those fights, right? A lot of it was people being able to, against all odds, tug back in, allow your team the space, the time to filter on through, and get that point still on your side.
I guess it's one of the things that Pepega bots were able to do because they've got that much more mobile comp with the charge from the Winston and the jump. Sorry, the charge from the Reinhardt and the jump for the Winston. I swear I've played this game and I know who has what abilities. It means that they can just keep tagging in and buy themselves a lot of progress. But in the end, Washdown, their comp just seems to have better synergy and they've got better timing on their ults. So Pepega bots keeping on running this Pharah comp. I don't know if that's going to run out for them in the end.
I mean, meta is meta for a reason, right? It's the thing that works. It finds you the most value for the littlest risk. And that's what we're seeing. When you have that double shield, you have the chance to just have your Batiste and Brigitte sit safely behind it. They don't get put. Well, they shouldn't get put. I should have meant actually.
Ideally.
They shouldn't get put in harm's way before the fight properly breaks out. Whereas when you're running that pharmacy, you are extremely vulnerable, especially when you look at how Village is set up. There isn't that high ground. There aren't really those many towers that you can try and hide behind unless you've already got control of the point. And if there's an Ashe on the other side sitting behind a Stigma and a Rista Shield who can hit her shots, you're dead before you even get to see her face.
I do feel like we've not seen Toxic Flow specifically deal with Psychopomp a lot, but is putting out a lot of pressure that make it just that little bit harder for the Pharah to find angles to stick the rockets in. And with the Pharah not able to close the distance in the way that she might like, you're just putting her team permanently in that 4v6 category of fight, and it's incredibly hard to win. I don't know if you've tried it, a 4v6 team fight. It's an uphill struggle to say the least.
I mean, not only is she putting them in that 4 versus 6, she's lacking the threat. When you're running that Winston, when you're running that Reinhardt, there's always going to be a little bit of a disconnect between your tank lineup, right? The Winston goes in first, the Reinhardt takes time to actually cross the distance and get in. And so in that space, you've got to have the Pharah putting down enough damage so that the Winston doesn't just get dispatched on his own. And then the rest of the team deals with the Reinhardt when he arrives a couple of seconds later. When you don't have that pressure, we're seeing the reason why this composition isn't really meta, is something that's more sort of a team personal favorite. It has cracks, it has flaws, and if you're not able to run it flawlessly, you are always going to be punished for it.
And I can talk a little bit about the fact that Pharah in lower levels of play can feel very oppressive because typically people tend to lack the mechanical skill to deal with her directly. And I wonder if we're maybe seeing this from Psychopomp, that this is, if not a one trick, at the very least a comfort pick on the Pharah, running into somebody like Toxic Flow who has the skills to pay the bills, making it very hard for them to run this what could well be a signature comp for Pepega bots.
I mean, hopefully it's not a signature comp for Pepega bots, because look at the map that we're about to load into. And you want to find any sort of map in Overwatch where Pharahs just don't get to survive longer than 3 seconds at a time. It's Junkertown, especially on point A, because it is just a sniper. Widow, Hanzo, Ashe, all of them find the exact same value. It's their playground. It's their field, it's their territory, and every time you boost up into that air, you were putting yourself at such a huge risk.
I do wonder if maybe we even see that particular adaptation here from Washdown, because this opening point in particular is such a Widowmaker friendly shooting gallery here that you can kind of afford to forego some of the benefits that the Ashe brings you in favor of just the raw pick potential of the Widowmaker.
There's a certain threat that a Widowmaker accompanies her. Whereas when you look at an Ashe, you're like, okay, it's an Ashe. She needs to 2-tap me, unless she's got that mercy damage boost. When you're facing down the barrel of a Widowmaker who can hit her shots, it changes the way a team plays completely. You can bet that they are going to be a lot more timid about how they approach each engagement, that they are only going to starting to move into that fight, that the backline is only going to run with the front line when everyone is 1000% certain that you're not going to lose an Ana, that you're not going to lose a Zenyatta. And if that Zenyatta stays on that board, well, Toxic Flow is going to have a really, really, really fun time, because everyone who plays Zen knows the painful of being one of the slowest moving heroes in Overwatch with one of the worst head hitboxes.
Yeah, he's kind of a floating square with a big orb sat on top of it that just screams out, headshot me. We'll see Toxic Flow starting here on the Widowmaker, and Psychopomp looking to mirror him maybe for an early pick. Let's see how that one goes out. Toxic Flow playing the off angle here. Had a line there onto Psychopomp, but couldn't quite make a connection. Has to run out of the way of the Wrecking Ball just to secure a little bit of safety here. Now going to play right the way in the back.
Well, keep an eye on Psycho. It's going to be down to both of these Widows. Who's going to be able to open up that fight with an early pick?
Oh! Snooty with the pick. Dr. Alex taken out of the fight. Immortality down now as well. It means they can refresh that pants. They can come back in without having to worry about it. Psychopomp's now looking for angles on the hunt here. Knows that there is a Widowmaker somewhere. Has a bead onto the Baptiste to keep, but can't make it work. And now it's Widowmaker duel time. And, well, it's going to be Raxi coming in, shouldering their way into that 1v1. And Washdown looking to start holding on with the defense.
Breaking the sanctity of the Widow v Widow duel. Absolutely filthy. But Hanzo, well, you want to start your defense off nicely, it's with a blade. Because look at Sody Pops, this Zenyatta. While doing a very good job of building Transcends, 58% is a lot faster than you would expect some sense to be hitting. It's still not enough, it's not an ult.
Oh, that was a beautiful rock onto SJW. Stops the power drive completing. Primal Rage out now from Japati. Will at least buy them a lot of space, make it that bit harder for people to try and focus anybody down, but it's not achieving too much, and all he's really done is give a big chunk of his HP over towards ult charge as Hanzo TP comes out swinging with the blade and finds Japati. One more defense here for Washdown.
This is the risk that you run when you don't have that Baptiste, you don't have that Immortality field. You're relying on the Zen to have Transcendence when the blade comes through, otherwise it's a teamwork. Unless you're able to get the Genji out of the way. And look at what they're running. The only one who's going to get that instant pick potential is the Widowmaker, and Toxic Flow is doing such a good job at keeping that sniper.
Oh, Snooty! That was rough for Snooty. Just about to get the blade online. They've got the nano boost as well. They can brute force a team fight here, win here with the ults they've got at hand.
You do have to be careful though. You have to be very careful about how you initiate, because Keith's got this amplification matrix. And you can have a nano blade, sure, but you're still going to be taking a bunch of damage to go through that window.
There's the dive from Japati. And now here's the Flux. 2 picks on the board already for Pepega bots. Snooty putting the trigger on the blade. Doesn't find too much value with it, but does force a bit of positioning out of Toxic Flow. Will eventually get the pick, and now both Widowmakers out of the fight. The tanks are still here now for Washdown, but they are looking less and less healthy by the second. And this seems like we might see this payload finally roll on into point B for the Pepega bots.
And now they can take control of this high ground, because you can't allow Toxic Flow the chance to set up and secure yourself a pick, because if you lose this second fight without actually getting spilled ultimates up of your own, you are going to be behind this for the rest of the map. Because look at what Washdown already have access to. So many ultimates. Pepega need to get the space, need to get the time for Snooty to try and equalize Hanzo's ult charge.
Yeah, it was a very expensive point A there for Pepega bots, but at least they're now getting the crack at point B. But Washdown very cleverly playing out of the way of Psychopomp. Japati, however, going up close and personal with the enemy Genji, will have to retreat, because up close and personal with the enemy Genji will see you take a huge amount of damage. Pops the Primal, dragged back up into range of Hanzo, who now has another blade on the table ready to go. Might not need it just yet. Gonna wait for that fight to develop a little bit longer, and out comes the blade, the double for Hanzo TP. Snooty's gonna go down as well. One more stolen out from under him by Keat. and into the hold here for Watch Down.
And it was completely dry as well. Roxy keeps a hold of the supercharges because there's no transcendence that you have to try and hit that damage maximum to actually break past that ultimate. Which means you've got a way of ending this next fight by distance and distance alone. Every single time Pepega tries to approach from this payload, you can hold the threat of the supercharges right above their head, but not above the head of Psycho, who finds Toxic instead.
Toxic Flow must just not have heard that voice line for the infra site coming up, because, oh boy, that was quite the pick there from Psychopomp. This opens things up in a big way. SDW with the roll through. Now with the nano boosted Dragon Blade over the top. Snooty finds the double. Will get Flux, but it looks like he's done enough here as the kill comes through onto Dr. Alex. One final curve away from tapping point B. Looking to see Pepega bots carry this through.
And unfortunately for Washdown, they did invest that Sigma Flux in. And so they're going to have to rely, if they want to try and contest this, on Keith. But it looks like they aren't even going to try and scramble. Instead, they're just going to occupy that main road. And this is the smart choice, honestly, Phil, because now you get a nice straight angle right onto Psycho, but not only that, right onto the rest of the team. When those doors open, it's going to be a shooting gallery when that amplification matrix gets popped.
Wow, well, Watchdown had a player advantage, but they've not done too much with it. They've sat back and waited for their Pepega bots to come to them. In comes the dive now from Jabati, who will have the Primal Rage ready to go. Double dive, a very heavy dive here with the Winston and the Wrecking Ball. And it is a swing the arms time from Jabati. Manages to displace Toxic Flow, stop them taking too aggressive an angle. Nice sleep there onto Neptune as well, but very little by way of follow-up damage. Rock comes out as well. Immortality field forced out early, and this is looking to be a very slow backwards retreat here from Washdown as Psychopomp with the swap over onto the hands of already finding dividends with 2 picks already. The answering Shimada brother of Snooty finds Keat here as well. Washdown are getting picks, but it might not be enough here to stem the bleeding. Pegabots back out a little ways for now, but Snooty with a punch back finds Hanzo, and suddenly it is all in favor of the Pegabots, and Washdown get one more crack at this one.
And it's a crack that they have to use because Sodipops is going to have this Transcendence, which means Hanzo's Blade completely null. That's not even going to be able to touch the time.
Oh, Snooty! Snooty finds 2 with the Blade, 1 with the reset. The mines as well make it so hard for the contest to come through, and they finish with 1 minute and 40 seconds in the bank.
Sodipops was at that really smug stage where you've got Transcendence, you know the other Genji's got Blade, and you find yourself at an impasse. You keep holding on to your ultimates and waiting for the other one to initiate, and it means when you get to that stage of a fight, the Zen's got Transcendence in the pocket for when you try and pull a team wipe with that Genji Blade, because that was what you needed. If you were washed down, right? You needed that team wipe so you could reset, you could go take the high ground, you could try and spam damage, get those early picks that we saw Pepega bots really did struggle with in the beginnings of that point A. But you do manage to full push. And this is actually, I think for me personally, Phil, one of the first times I've got to see an escort map getting full pushed in the last month.
It's felt like a very grindy period in Overwatch, hasn't it? It's not about like big team fight wipes the way that GOATs used to be. It's like, you know, we'll just use a couple of abilities, a couple of ults, and we'll grind out a team fight win. And by the time everyone has finished doing that, sometimes you're at the end of point 2, sometimes you're about midway through it. So yeah, you're right. Seeing it come all the way here is quite the treat for us as casters. The Pepega bots, it's their turn on the defense now, and they're opting for, well, I mean, what even would you call this, Moxie?
Frankenstein dive.
Okay, Frankendive.
Frankendive. But you're gonna have this Tracer, and the Tracer's gonna do a very good job of coming in with the Hammond, coming in with the Genji, being a little bit of extra damage, a little bit of extra threat that really puts Keat in an uncomfortable position. You do have to get past 1 layer of CC, make that 2. Toxic's onto the 3, and that's gonna be a real problem.
It's gonna be quite the useful tool here with all the dive targets coming in. Hanzo over get onto the high ground and force out the enemy Genji there. Snooty taking a backseat for now. And we're seeing Pepega bots just slowly move back, not opting to lose the fight in too big a way. Wow, we got the Flashbang King from Toxic Flow. Hanzo survives by the skin of his teeth, retreats to the safety of the Immortality field, and comes out of that even having been antied. And it's looking very good now for Washdown to make a quick push to point A.
Pepega are just very split at the moment. Oh, you do manage to get Hanzo, so that cuts the Genji off before he can hit that blade charge.
But still,
you are so split, and you've got to just wait, you've got to regroup. Sodipops is looking very vulnerable in that low ground all by himself, and there he goes.
Dear. Wow, it was melee kills by the score here for Washdown, and the Pepega just looking kind of lost here.
Well, they may be looking just a little bit more lost in a couple of seconds. Keep your eye on that kill feed. There's the Genji and hop the scene of an Ana Patresk!
That's gonna feel good as an Ana player, huh, Moxie?
Tretzkaft, oh yes, my hero, getting the DPS who thought that they could solo the main support, going to be teaching some manners to that one. But you're going to be coming in with a blade, and you know you're going to murder Goggle straight into that Ana because Sodi's only just hopped onto the Zen, no Transcendence available.
Ooh, nice power drive into the back, almost deals with Hanzo. Manages to drop the minefield, but can't find too much. But Toxic Flow in the back with the high noon finds the double, and that is going to be one less defense on the board here for the Vegabots. Washdown, it's still struggling.
It's so hard to just survive against the Jedi when you've only got a Rhine Shield that breaks so easily. And Washdown are going to be breaking Pepega pretty easily in this next fight as well because they've got this blade, and Roxy is very, very close to that supercharger. You just have to watch out for the Shadow Showdown.
Japati angling now to have the shatter, won't find it. Snooty has the blade, but he gets ripped up, he gets rocked, he gets defeated. Neptune with the double. And they are doing this so efficiently, Moxie. They only use the Flux and the Rally here, and they're looking to cap point C.
They've still got the blade. They've still got the superchargers, and once they win the next fight with that, Flux Explode is going to have that Deadeye, and it's not just going to be a zoning ultimate, because if you're Pepega Box, you're not going to have space to give him. Poor Sodipops, look at this send. Not even 40% off the way to trans. SJW's onto the Roadhog just to try and hook the Genji out before the blade can hit.
It's an interesting adaptation. I don't know if it will have the success they're maybe hoping for here. I guess we'll have to wait and see. One of the things you kind of want to do is to get the hold from the Orisa and drag him away from his intended target. They haven't got that, but Washdown have in the back. They've got the high noon, and more importantly, they've got the blade from Hanzo TP, able to get the double. Dralix with one to round things out, and this is looking great here as the push continues for Washdown.
This is risky for Pepega. Having that Roadhog in play, you're a big stack of Volt Charge right now. And Hanzo may just have used the blade, but we've seen what Genjis can do. They can get it up in breakneck speed. And SAW is going to be going on to the Zarya, so you've got a little bit more peel for your backline this time around. Cutscap, if you can get the Nano online, that would be absolutely huge. That would allow Snooty to build up to the blade.
Amplification Matrix up first, and always difficult to find value for the Pulse Bomb when there is an Immortality field in play. A lot of damage coming through though onto Washdown, and they lose Raxi. Nano boost onto the Genji of Snooty there as well, has got him most of the way to the blade, and now it is a fighting retreat for Washdown as Pepega Bots, for the first time this round, look like they're in charge of the defense.
And they can be deciding the tempo of this next as well. Sodi going to be picking up the head of Neptune. And you're even going to be adding salt onto the wounds in this next fight. Neptune's going to have the Sigma Flux, but Sodipop is going to have that Transcendence. And that is the pain of every single aggressive ultimate. It absolutely just cancels them out. And by the time that gets cancelled out, SJW is going to have this Graviton, which you can combo up with Snooty. You don't need a Nano Boost, you just need the power of gravity.
SJW has done such a good job of getting this ult up and ready to go. It's a very slow charging ult, but it is almost on board, and it is almost a guaranteed teamfight win. There's the Coalescence. We already lose SJW, but Cyclone's able to punch back here, and for Pegabots, they've got the double on the board. Snooty with the blade, does the body damage, will find Dr. Alex here in this exchange, dashes back through, and Raxi goes down. And now we're below the 3-minute mark here, and Pegabots still have ult advantage.
It's a silver lining, isn't it? You lose the Zarya, so you keep a hold of the Graviton, which means when Hanzo comes in with this blade, he doesn't have to worry about the Zen. It's the others that he's got to watch out for. That Graviton, if you're able to connect it onto the Genji, Blade doesn't get to find anything. Genji doesn't get to find anything. Hanzo completely split away from your team. You should not have been playing on that road then, my friend.
I think a round of applause, Moxie. You are clearly struggling far less with this Genji Hanzo thing than I am, because it throws me for a loop every single time it comes out. And we are getting very close now to Pepega Bots having a better time bank than Washdown, after Washdown managed a stonking point A and a stonking point B. Amplification Matrix out.
does get dropped on that main road, which means a lot of damage, and now they can start deciding the tempo once they get it.
That's right, and as Hanzo TP leads the charge, able to find 2, finds the 3rd, and has the blade ready to go. Casual melee onto Travis Scaft as well. Will be a slower time bank here, but it's looking like it might at least be a cap with the ults that Washdown have.
They've got the high ground as well, so Toxic going to be completely ignored. Oh! That's not easy, but it's not the important ultimate, it's not the grab.
Rally, grab, supercharger, blade, Hanzo TP with the double. Looking for one more to start to close things out here. Snooty has a blade of their own, but gets shut down in the middle of it. Sody Pops knocked down and washed down complete. And there is not much in this time bank as we come into the second round through Junkertown.
There could have been so much more though. Phil, they had the Graviton! They were holding on to the Graviton for the Genji blade. Hanzo ults and the Graviton doesn't connect with the Genji and he gets a free pass to zigzag all the way around the composition, and the Zarya gets to do nothing but watch. It's painful, but time banks are pretty close and you are happy right now, surely, if you're Pepega bots, right? Because you are shortening the distance, shortening the difference between the teams that we saw present on that first control point.
Ready for battle.
I kind of wonder why Pepega bots weren't running a composition like they were running on that point C a little bit earlier, because it seemed to work incredibly well for them. And I wonder if maybe their run through the winners bracket has been a little bit ego inflating for them and they think they can just run whatever they'd like. And this is another weird wrinkle coming out for them on their defense.
When you have the Mei, you tend to play very aggressively towards spawn.
Looks like it.
And they're going for that angle. It does buy you a lot of time, right? And you know you've only got to shut them down, stop them for 1 minute, 21 seconds. But when you hold this aggressively, you are so far away from the respawn, you have to get a kill instantly. Otherwise, you can really crumble.
So it looks like they knew immediately where they were. The wall comes out, but it doesn't really do much to split anybody off, as Snooty is having a fine time out past the wall anyway. And Hanzo's going to get sloped down here. Somebody Pops capitalizing on the sleep and trap scaff. Toxic Flow down as well on the Farah here. Really strange wrinkle into this on the offense.
Even stranger was that Dr. Alex tried to cope with that res and only find yourself staggered out. If you're washed down, you have to get out of spawn. You've got to set up an alternative angle to pump damage out of Hanzo onto the Bastion. Is definitely going to be a means of scaring Pepega bots away, but they can just hug the payload all the while the time bank's slowly burning down.
So, look, if they can guarantee, like, a last fight here where the cart doesn't... Okay, the cart is starting to move, and Pepega bots are starting to be pushed back a little ways by the pressure coming out from Hanzo TP and Toxic Flow. So, they've burnt time off the clock. We will just go very quickly into overtime, but Neptune is able to get a pick here. Immortality now down, and there is the second and the third pick coming out from Watchdown. Cart's going to start rolling as Hanzo TP moves back over onto the Genji. A convincing team fight win as we approach overtime.
You just have to be very careful though, because you are going to hit overtime, and Pepega have hit ultimates. They haven't hit their big win condition yet, right? As soon as that Blizzard comes out, it's game over if Washdown don't have their Immortality field up and available. So what they've got to do is they've got to win this next fight out. They've got to focus down that Mei before the ultimate comes through.
Immortality amplification matrix out from both teams now. Nobody really able to find too much through it, but it's for space now for Pepega bots to get into the line of fire. There's a 1-for-1 trade on the barrage from Toxic Flow. Hanzo TP finds one with a dash reset, and the flux is there to rob the valley from Snooty's nano boosted Dragon Blade. Gets the pick onto Snooty, and we're going to see a point B cap here for Washdown.
Payload moving along, and if you're washed down, you've got to initiate this next fight. You managed to get Psycho out of the way with that barrage before Blitz's online, but now it's been built up. Now you have to initiate with a blade, with a supercharger, which are going to be online in just a couple of moments. Otherwise, Pepega is going to be cleaning you off that payload, both with the Shadow, both with the Blizzard.
And there's a world here where Neptune could, in fact, remove that Blizzard from the table. It's tricky to do, but not entirely impossible, and that would really suck up the game plan. There's the Shatter. Finds one Dralix on the ground, but there's no follow-up there. It buys the space for the Blizzard. Raxi down. Snooty with dash through. Immortality down. And Hanzo TP. Yes! desperately trying to make this work, finds the double, and they make it work! Hanzo TP finds the picks and the body damage, and they keep the cart rolling for now.
Just no cleanup. Blizzard comes through, but he's already used that shatter, right? To guarantee that you would be able to put that Blizzard down, to guarantee that Neptune did not have that slim chance of eating it with kinetic grasp. And this payload, it's going to hit P! Unless Pepega are able to do anything, and you can already see Toxic Flow on that ledge, on that Dimpus, making sure no one can touch.
So they pop with the tag in on the Lucio, will keep it going that little while longer, buys time for SW come back in with the Flux, looking for the Signide, doesn't catch Hanzo, he's able to tag back onto the point and start to find picks instead. It was so close to a stop on the card, but we're going to see it roll into point C, still deep into overtime.
And you put all of your eggs in the basket of that Signide!
Wow.
Psycho gets staggered out, May separated from the team. SJW is forced onto the Hammond, right? Because you now just have to touch this payload. Make sure that it doesn't move any further because you have no right to be this far into Junkertown with only 1 minute 21 seconds to work with.
This kind of push is definitely the mold maker here, all the way through in overtime, but so hard to dislodge what Washdown has currently got stacked onto the cart. And Toxic Flow on the Doomfist, still able to find pick. Finds Snooty with the Meteor Strike, has no right to making picks like that. SJW trying to keep the stall going, but can't make it happen. It doesn't matter if you burn off time because there is no time to burn off.
Hanslow's got Blade. And if you're Pepega, you don't have a Batiste. You don't have a Soundbar. You've got a Blade of your own, and Patati's coming into the shadow, but he's got to land it between two shields, and all the while the payload's still moving.
It's going to be the battle of the Blade and the better Blade here. Transgap and Snooty absolutely have an opportunity to make this work, but Hanzo TP comes in first, finds Japati, but it's a 2-for-2 trade. Snooty with the Blade in the back, that's the 2, and finally stops it. But Moxie, that might as well have been all the way to the end of Junkertown.
80.47 meters, 1 minute and 21 seconds in your time bank. Phil, what did we just witness?
We witnessed Washdown doing everything in their power to make Pepega bots grab fistfuls of their own hair and rip it out bodily by the root.
Oh, you have to be feeling for this team right now, right? Pepega bots, they knew all of the ways that they could approach this. They opted into that Blizzard play. They knew that if they could manage to put that down onto the payload, that would stuff it all up. Since Blizzard comes down, you just have to eat the damage, but there was no following ultimate available. They knew that they could go for that Sig9 play. They tried it themselves on B, and it was a gamble. It was a gamble that had major consequences because you missed one player. One player was able to touch, and then you denied yourself that ultimate by going for that big Brim play. You didn't have it for that next fight to try and stop the cart, and instead you just gotta wait and wait and wait until Snooty hits that blade. And now you've got 1 minute 40 seconds, and your push has to be good, has to be better than what we just saw. You've got 20 more seconds to do it with, but my goodness, it's gonna be a hard ask, especially if you're coming out of this composition, because this is Dive. Dive is feast and Dive is famine.
Especially on a map like Junkertown, high ground, not all that available, a little bit punishing, very exposed. And of course, you've got to leave the cart to make this work, so it pushes the cart incredibly slowly. Toxic Flow looking for picks on the high ground, instead going to retreat back to that long sight line down mid. And Washdown, they want to have this fight over this archway, but they've already lost Hanzo. They need a punch back now. Otherwise, this is going to be much harder for them to do. They've guaranteed the 5v5 now. Of course, SJW will be back incredibly quickly, and the cart is still moving.
It's all about who's able to hit ultimates right now. Which Genji is going to be able to hit that blade, whether the dive can come through and you can build up Primal to buy yourself that space needed to keep your backline up.
Snooty's got the charge advantage here for the Dragon Blade, and Tratscap not that far away. Hanzo TP caught out yet again, but Psychopomp down now as well. Dive coming through onto the Widow in the backline while the brawl happens over the course of the card. Washdown looking like they might just be able to manage a slowdown into OT here, but this defense has been incredibly scrappy.
Keep drops on amplification. Matrix and this is going to make it even scrappy. It is a no-holds-barred right now.
Japati with the juggle, wants to stop anybody finding too much value through the amplification matrix. Looking for that pick onto Keep, won't find it. Immortality field up as Neptune finds Psychopomp. Despite this being scrappy, Washdown are dragging so much time out of this fight, Moxie.
Good for the overtime before that point even gets to hit A. With your Pepega bots, you've got ultimates, right? You've got those hammer mines, you just drop them in. You've got the nano blade, but it's going to have to be huge. And even if you nano blade, you risk being picked up by Neptune and just dunked into the ground like a tractor.
Here's the Flux, can't quite find the connect with the Orisa hold, but that's big. Sody Pops goes down before the trans can come online. Hanzo TP finds 3, but it's dueling blades. Snooty able to find 1 here as well. Hanzo TP can't find that kill, and it is now swing to win for the Wrecking Ball on the point, and Snooty on his own, abandoned, looking to try and round this out here, ducking and diving around the cart, but he's going to deal with 2 players here, the Sigma and the Widowmaker, but he buys time here for Traxcap to tag back in on the Lucio, and the recon test comes through. Sody Pops finds Neptune here, and it is still all in here for Pepega bots as the picks start to come through. Sody Pops with the Transcenders guarantees them that fight and guarantees them the cap on B. Washdown, they poured all of their ults into that fight, Moxie.
They tried to go for swaps as well. Hansler, you can see 30% of the way to that pulse bomb so you could try and tag back in faster. But my goodness, Snooty, hero of the hour, able to stay alive on that Kenji, able to let Sody Pops come back in with that Transcendence. But he's now going on to the Moira. Traxcap going to be sticking with the Lucio. So you've got the mobility, but better, you've got the survivability for when Hanzo tries to come for your backline. And if you're Pepega, you've got shutdown potential as well. Hammond Mines and Dragon Strike, you couple those up, all of the exits are going to be completely stuck for Washdown.
But these ults have to be quick and they have to be decisive. The Pepega bots need to get on the board. They need this map to get away from that match point situation here. They still have ults to play with. SCW's going to pull the trigger on one of them. The minefield comes out, hasn't found too much here. Looks like that was all cleared by the Sigma shield here as well. SGW now coming into the line of fire of the Gravitic Flux, slammed down as Neptune finds Traxcap. Snooty taken out in the middle of the blade here, and this is starting to mount up here for Washdown in a very real way. For Pepega, they've brought it back from worse than this, but it's getting worse and worse by the second, and Washdown are going to take us to match point 2-1 in there, 2-0 in their favor.
So when you've got a Dragon Strike and when you've got Hammond Mines, there's a play that you can make, and it really isn't letting the defending team control high ground. Because the Dragon comes through, and it's the zoning ultimate, right? It's used to split everyone away from your team so you can safely keep pushing that payload. But the defenders know they can just step away, they can move to the left or to the right, and that's an ultimate that they don't have to worry. If you'd stacked the Hammond Mines, if you'd pushed them onto the high ground and had the Hammond waiting in the wings to drop mines on their unsuspecting heads, then that would have worked out beautifully. It would have been clean, it would have been clinical, it would have been a team fight win. But they come out a little bit too separate, Phil, and because they're separate, everyone doesn't really fall into them. You just move to the left, and then when the Hammer Mines come out, you just CC the hamster so the Hammer Mines get cancelled.
Yeah, a lot of these ults can, of course, be countered just by, as you say, taking that casual step to the side. And we're going to be taking a casual step into a break while we give our teams a chance to relax their wrists and get some water. But come back for what could be the thrilling concluding map of our intermediate grand final in just a couple of minutes. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for bearing with us during the break. We are now back, refreshed, and ready to bring you what could be the last map here as we move on to our hybrid map. And no surprises for a grand finals in what could potentially be the last map in the entire tournament for the intermediate division. We're going to King's Row, Moxie.
I mean, if it is the last map in this finals, it's going to be a big upset, isn't it? But watch down these players. They had to fight their way all the way through the losers bracket to make it to where they are right now. And they'd even met Pepega bots earlier and had suffered a defeat at the hands of these guys. They've done their homework. They know what Pepega bots like to play, and they have been very, very good and very, very strong at just shutting it all down.
I kind of think it comes down to, and I don't want to simplify this to the point of like it's down specifically to these two players, but Hanzo TP and Snooty on their respective Genjis. There is a reason why Hanzo TP I think is having that much more value, and it's because he has a stable team comp. Like, he knows what he's playing with. He's playing with the double shield setup, and he gets all of this space. Snooty, yes, he has the advantage of an Ana nano boost, but who knows what the team comp is going to look like by the time he's got his blade up.
And I mean, there's no supercharges, there's no halt, and those are two things that Genji players look at the moment into dealing their most damage, right? When you don't have that nano charge and you're trying to supercharge your ultimate up, surprise, surprise, you want the ultimate called supercharges to help you out, and those halt combinations are wrestle with anything at the moment. If you can time it well, it's pretty much a free kill guaranteed. And so when you're lacking that cohesion around your team, this being a team-based game, remember, 6 people, not just 1 versus 1, you are constantly going to be on the back foot, and that is going to be painfully apparent on King's Row, where we've seen a sort of shift in the approach to defending. No longer do you go for that whole, like, everybody on the high ground or everybody around choke. Now you sort of try and go for that split defense, right? You send the Genji in to build up blade, to quietly unseat the backline, all the while you've got a Sigma and an Ashe parked up on that high ground, spam damaging everybody down if they try to go for choke, forcing them to go for that really long rotation, very punishing as well. It's hard to get up those steps, and it's even harder to get up those steps with everyone in your composition still alive.
I think this is making maybe a slight prediction here that we're kind of expecting Pepega bots to be running that sort of defense that lets them run the split Sigma Ashe Genji defense here, but we have not seen anything really approaching the meta from them. And now we've got the additional wrinkle of Cam coming in for Psycho Pomper. You noted to me during the break is kind of a hit scan specialist for Pepega bots, which makes me think they've got something wacky in mind here. They're bringing someone else in.
Yeah, we're not going to have Pomp anymore, which means no opportunity, or at least less likely opportunity for that far. Cam does have the note of being an Ashe specialist for these guys, and you know, Ashe can be absolutely brutal if you leave her alone on King's Row. The high ground perches, the amount of places where you can just slip a dynamite in to get an entire team burning up and charge your ultimate in the breakneck pace. All those are things that you are going to be facing if you're up against that one particular player. And if you're up against this one particular defense, you are going to have to worry about that Orisa up against that Sigma as well, because it's not Pepega on the attack first off. It's Washed Down, and they're going for something a little bit more meta.
A little more 100% exactly what the meta is, being run by pretty much everybody at all levels of competitive play. The Pepega bots, though, are they going to be coming out on this Ryan Zarya?
It's like King's Row. It's known for it, but that has fallen since by the wayside, and even worse, you're still running this Mercy, you're still running this Ana, you were constantly going to be behind in healing.
It's a really weird decision, and I just haven't seen them really manage the skill to make this work so far. Does a lot of work there to pressure out the Ashe in the window and get themselves a cheeky tick. Down on the lower ground, it's going to be Cam that gets the first pick. Main tank traded here for main tank. Snooty boot for his life right the way to the background. Might have done him a favor there. Takes him away from the aggression from Washdown. Paddy brought back into the fight by the res. No longer online for them to have to worry about. Cam's going to find a pick, and Trats go down as well here. This has managed to see 2 ticks gained here for Pepega, and they are slowly winning out this team fight. But this has been such a weird exchange. Whoa!
Such a weird team fight. And it's gonna pop right in my goodness.
He had no business making that work. He just single-handedly bladed his team back into the fight.
I mean, you're not running that Batiste, you're not running that Brigitte. There is nothing beside that sleep dart to shut that Genji down. And if the Ana isn't able to hit that one, if the Ana isn't even able to be alive, then it's not going to be shut down.
Well, they're not going to have that on the next defense. They've only got the rally to go on this one. They're going to start it early so that has a chance to build up. There's the blade and the grabs in over the top. Immortality field burnt. And with Hanzo and Dr. Alex both down now, and a Valk available, not to mention a res here for Bunny, this is looking like it might be the straw that finally breaks the camel's back defense for Washdown. Toxic Flow is able to find a pick here, but it comes at the expense of Neptune. Yeah, for Paddy. Rocks up into the air by the Bob, and now has to back away from said Bob and give up presence on the point. There's a reprieve here from Cam, who manages to TNT himself, escapes without taking the damage. Now a Bob of his own on the field and ready to go. Just smushes Hanzo TP into the wall with the and is ready to go. Picks up plenty for Cam. Might not even need the Bob. There's the Cam.
Oh, Pepega going to be coming in with Cam's Bob in hot pursuit of this next fight as well. Tratscraft going to have that nano boost. So if you're washed down, you are in full retreat mode at the moment. You can't afford to get anybody on your team staggered out because you will be behind in ult charge. You will allow SJW the time to build up to this Graviton, the time to be able to counterplay Hansel when he comes in with this blade, which will be the play Washdown are going to be looking to set up in this next engage.
That's right, watch these numbers, folks, because whoever gets to this first is likely to be who dictates how this fight goes. Instead, we're going to see Neptune round things out now with the Graviton Flux, and 2-3 quick picks there for Washdown on the back of just that Gravitic Flux has rounded out the team fight for them, and now they can start to hold the archway, Moxie.
Gravitic Flux was used by Neptune, but so too was Gravitic Surge used by SJW. And you know what wasn't used by Washdown? Not Nano Blade, Supercharged Blade. Pepega may have a Nano, may have a Bob, but that's not going to be doing an awful lot if Hans was able to get in and rip your team apart.
And you know, if Dr. Alex can do a little bit of swinging around this with the supercharger in place, what a sleep! Hanzo TP down, will survive through that and still find a pick, gets a little bit of vengeance there on Tratscraft before being focused out himself. Looks like Washdown are going to be winning this fight, but the payload is still inching its way forward. Bob now out from Toxic Flow, just want to guarantee this team.
Oh, Pepega, they put in the Shatter. They thought they would be able to turn it around, but they didn't have that follow-up. Right, Snooty goes down, Blade not available. Bunny's got that Valkyrie, and you can't just stick to the Genji, try and just keep him healed up, make sure that it finds the full value, but you first got to get through Keed on this Batiste with that Immortality field.
We are going to have the option to Valk through this next Dragon Blade for Snooty. It's not ideal, but it could find some additional value. Probably want to wait for that rally arm to go down first. And there's the Graviton Surge, locks them in place and allows him to cut through. And SJW with the high charge does a lot of the heavy lifting in that one as well. They have managed to win up this team fight, but they're going to have one more contest.
Keith's going to have this amplification matrix as well. Toxic Flow gets staggered out, and that is huge. Because unlike Pepega, you're not running that Mercy. You can't just erase that mistake. Cam gets rezzed up. You don't have to worry about coming in one man down. If you're washed down, you've got to be extremely careful because you are going to be lacking stamina.
That's an equalizer. 5v5 now, and amplification matrix up. He can just pile the healing and the damage in through that. This is so tradey. Japati with the Shadi once more. Didn't get too much out of it. Too many shields to be working around here. Bob on the field for Cam as the res comes through. Back onto Japati. Maybe wants that res back because Japati is not going to be living through that one for much longer.
You need to reset as quickly as possible. SJW!
Oh,
You've got 1 minute on the clock. You've got one push, and you can't afford the time to bait out these ultimates, right? This next fight is going to be that final one, then it becomes that scramble, which means you've got to stop this Genji before he's able to get this ultimate. But you're lacking the ult necessary to do so. SJW is going to be so close to that grab, but it charges so slowly, Phil. If Washdown are quick, they'll be able to get that Genji in before it comes online.
oh, there's now a Bob on the field as well as a supercharger. Another big sleep there, but the immortality field comes out and protects Hanzo TV. They use the grab there as well, but to out much effect, there's another halt and more damage in from Hanzo TP, finding Cam, and we're now at 15 seconds as Snooty goes down, and a big stagger there, almost coming through onto the Mercy. They're not going to get a chance to touch Moxie.
There's no Lucio, there's no Tracer.
No!
Sigma
With the hero play, but that is it. And now for Pepega bots, they've got to mount the mother of all defenses because Washdown, they've got to make it through to the end of point B, and that is it. That is the end of the tournament run for them.
You know what they do? What they have to do? They have to mount the mother of all point A defenses. Because Streets phase, about 75% of that point is free push if you win that point and you win that fight at choke. It is not stopped at an ideal place at all, Phil. In fact, it's put
No.
right on the corner of where we tend to see that second fight break out. You don't even get to access point C.
It's a really big ass here for Pepega bots, and I kind of feel like they've been victims of their own mistakes. Like, just running these really weird compositions the entire time. They didn't have to play it like this. They've kind of handed this series to Washdown on a plate, and unless they can mount that defense that we're talking about, it's over. It's done.
Ready for battle.
It is. It's game set, but not quite match. And so we're going to be seeing something a little bit different come out from the defenders. This was the game plan all along. Cam is not just an Ashe specialist. It seems Phil going to be going into that McCree.
So apologies, everybody. Having a little bit of a feed issue here. We'll be back with you as soon as we can. So apologies if we suddenly seem a little bit jarred. Yeah, unfortunately, guys, not entirely sure what we can do. Okay. Sorry about this, guys. Unfortunately, seem to be having some technical difficulties. We'll try and iron these out as soon as we can. In the meantime, I guess all we can really do, Moxie, is speculate about how this McCree and May composition is going to work out.
I mean, you have a lot of control, right, in deciding how the fight plays out, and you've also got a lot of shutdown. We're seeing the Genji Hanzo as being such a tough problem for this team to deal with, right? You put that May in, so you've got the primary fire CC. You put that McCree in to double down extra hard with the flashbang. If the Genji comes anywhere close to your composition, he's going to be left thinking twice within a couple of moments.
And again, I kind of feel like this is another wrinkle, another composition that they don't have to be running here. Like they've been asked to solve 2 + 2, and they're going into long division and algebra and writing huge programs to try and figure out what the answer is. And I just feel like they're overthinking things.
Yeah. It does feel like they are just really overthinking things right now, but it's match point, Phil. Remember, you have to try and put as much in your way as you can for that Genji because he is just completely unbuckling this composition right now.
Just to give you a heads up, guys, we are still trying to figure out our stream issue. The game is actually still going on. We've not paused this for our teams. Didn't think that was fair for them. Unfortunately, still on our backup, not quite able to make this work out for you. The second we get this sorted out, we will try. Looks like I might actually have a workable feed here, Moxie. Not sure about yourself.
It is still quite a bit behind for me.
So, ladies and gents, unfortunately, I think we're going to have to, at the very least, throw to a break here while we try and figure this out. We'll be back with an update as soon as we have one for you. Thank you for bearing with us, and don't go too far. Hello again, everybody. Unfortunately, we have some bad news, which is that the game is now over. And then we have some good news if you're a Washdown fan, and some bad news if you're a Pepega Bots fan. Washdown were able to secure the cap just before point B, just before point C on King's Row, and walk away as your intermediate grand champions. Moxie, I can't really even ask you to break down what happened because, unfortunately, we didn't get to watch that one. But one thing that we do have for you guys is we do have an interview with one of the players from the winning team coming your way just as soon as we can drag them into the lobby. So we're just waiting on confirmation as to who we're getting. 1 second and we'll be right with you. Okay, we're getting Neptune, who was the off-tank player for Washdown. I think pretty much all of their time played on Sigma in what we've seen for this particular round through.
It's going to be interesting as well to hear what exactly was going on through the team's head. I know I'm actually really interested, Phil, in getting the lowdown about whether or not they were prepared for the wackiness that the Pepega bots were coming out with, because Reinhardt is not something you tend to practice for at the moment in Overwatch.
Quite right. Well, here we go. Neptune, congratulations. Welcome to the stream. How are you feeling on the back of your run through the losers bracket and into the grand finals and top place?
Wow, very good, I guess. Being as good as you can.
Yeah, we'd be surprised if you were feeling bad on the back of that one, I think. So, obviously you've had a run through the losers bracket, and it's not the first time that you've met Pepega bots. What did you do to prepare for this grand final match?
Well, to be honest, we just did carried on with what we did the first time we played them. Just scrimmed pretty much every day, and I think it's just been more time, so we've become more prepared.
So sort of then bouncing off Phil's question, Pepega doesn't exactly run with the meta. The Reinhardt being a big part of their composition. Did you guys know that that was coming and put sort of pretty much scrim methods in place to dealing with it? Or was it just a case of, we'll deal with it when it comes up?
Well, we didn't really do anything in our scrims to prepare for it per se, because other teams they're practicing what they need. But we watched the match that was streamed yesterday, no, Friday, I think. So we knew that they weren't exactly running the run of the mill composition, so we were just prepared for that.
And so, thinking back to the overall GitGud tournament process, has this been your first run through something like this? And do you think it's changed your abilities and your outlook on Overwatch?
Well, I did a GG season 4
Huh.
in the whatever bracket was below this, and it's definitely helped. My Sigma used to it wasn't very good, but it's definitely gone up there since doing this.
Good. Always glad to see progress through these.
And a quick question, actually, really sort of Sigma shaped. Sigma Flux changes a lot of how teams engage and whether or not you use it to initiate or react. Does tell you a lot about teams. Do you personally find yourself using it defensively, or do you like to tend to use it a lot more aggressively to
Well,
get you kills?
I like to use it aggressively, but
Mhm.
it really just depends on what we know the enemy team has. Like, for instance, a lot today, when I happened to have my flux, we knew that the enemy team would have their blade, so I'd end up saving it. But then there are other matches where I would just pretty much always use it as an opener to get out immortality or beat.
So did that sort of like change based on the Genji that you were playing? Because the Genji that you were up against was definitely a very good Genji, able to stay alive, able to use blade, able to get kills, or was that just a case of they both came online at the same time?
I think it was just a matter of us having them at the same time most of the time.
Sometimes the stars align and you're able to just completely ruin a DPS player's day.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Neptune, thank you very much for joining us today, and congratulations again on your win. Before you leave, anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
Probably our coach, Nine. We would probably be running some weird scuffed composition if it wasn't for her. So she really got us through the whole thing.
That's great. Well, again, thank you very much for joining us. Congratulations on your win, and we look forward to who knows, maybe seeing you the next division up next time through GitGud.
One can only hope.
One can hope. And guys, for myself and Moxie, this is not going to be goodbye just yet, because of course we do have one more level of GitGud to come your way, but we are going to throw it to a short break while we get that all lined up and ready to go. But kick around the lobby for a while. I guarantee you it's going to be a banger of a match. Don't go too far.